Since the first running in 1975, the Long Beach Grand Prix has become a staple of the North American motorsports calendar. The greats from Formula One, Indy cars, and sports cars have raced and won on these famous streets. Today, a new chapter in the illustrious history of this race will be written in front of a car-crazed Southern California crowd. Welcome to GT America, powered by AWS, Race 2 at the Grand Prix of Long Beach, presented by 511. Hello and welcome to Southern California. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. Amanda Busick is down on the pit lane for us once again as we get set to go for race number 2 of the weekend. Race 1 about 24 hours ago, Calvin. It was a barn burner. We had a thriller that ran clean from green flag to checkered flag.
We really did. A fantastic race. I think it was put best by Johnny O'Connell, who finished in the runner-up spots. And if you don't like that race, you just don't like sport, because there was a fabulous duel between Jason Descalos, who came out on top, scoring his second win of the season, and Johnny O. And Johnny O was hoping to go one better today and claim that top spot. He has a lot of history here at Long Beach, and that Audi looks very strong here on the streets.
Johnny O'Connell's history at Long Beach dates back to 1986. So a lot of history, a lot of experience to draw upon. It is a beautiful day here in Southern California. Blue skies overhead, just a slight breeze, very comfortable out and about, very similar to what we saw yesterday. So that should help these teams have these cars dialed in for a 40-minute sprint.
It really should, but we just got finished with a very long IndyCar race. Their rubber was put down. Is it compatible with the Prix? We'll have to wait and see.
One of the many question marks that hangs over this race, and one of the stories from yesterday that certainly we were busy talking about was Jason Descalos' emotional win. We could talk more about that throughout the course of the show, but we should get down and join Amanda Busick, who's standing pit side for us here in Long Beach.
Hey guys, and what a Chamber of Commerce day to end out our weekend here on the streets of Long Beach, presented by 511. If you look at yesterday's results, all of our winners are on pole here today, but what I find most interesting is the runner-ups from yesterday, what their plan is for today. If we start in the GT3 category, Johnny O'Connell said that a race has never been won in the first corner. He plans to race smart today, but also said still look at turn 1 as we get this race started. In the GT2 category, talking to Aaron Farhadi, he said that he hopes that he can match the straight line speed of that Mercedes of Dan Cox and being able to run down him today. And probably my favorite, and I'm sure we're going to be focusing on this one, that's the teacher and the student of Isaac Sherman and Rob Holland. Rob loves winning on street courses. You go back to Nashville a couple years ago, he has a podium here from prior visits and won yesterday. That's where I'm going to look in turn 1. Can Rob Holland nudge out his student and take the lead here in this race?
Some great stories to keep an eye on, that's for sure, Amanda. And in that GT4 battle between Isaac Sherman and Rob Holland, it's not just student and teacher, it's car owner and the driver of one of the cars. And for Rob Holland, he told me earlier in the weekend, at a certain point, I don't think of myself as a car owner anymore. I think of myself as a racing driver.
Yeah, I had a nice chat with both of them here this morning, and Rob said, I haven't had a win at Long Beach, as Amanda said. He's had podiums here before, but he wants a win. And on the other hand, does he take points away from his championship leader and teammate here? So we'll have to wait and see. Once the racer's helmet goes on, sometimes your thought process goes out of the window.
Yeah, well, it'll be fascinating. It certainly was throughout the 40-minute race yesterday. 3 classes here in GT America, powered by AWS as always. SRO 3, which is effectively a class for GT3 spec cars. GT4 and GT2, those are pretty straightforward. We've talked about SRO 3, we've talked about GT4. How about GT2? Biggest grid we've had stateside since GT2 was brought back from the dead a couple of years ago by the SRO Motorsports Group. And Dan Knox was able to hold off Aaron Farhadi yesterday, but they had a pretty good duel that came down to just a couple of seconds after 40 minutes of racing.
Yeah, it's really tight between those two for the victory here. I think today, once again, I spoke to Farhadi this morning. He said, you know, the Mercedes just has good straightaway speed. He feels if he can get track position on him early. So Amanda talked about the first corner, can you win or lose the race. Well, from Fahadi's standpoint, he may think he can actually win the race in the first corner by getting in front of the Mercedes, laying down the lap time that the Lamborghini has, and then seeing what Dan Knotts can then do. But Dan Knotts, a great competitor, great to see Lone Star Racing back in our paddock. They're a top-notch group led by AJ Peterson. They always put out a really great race car.
And two really cool cars when we're talking about the GT2 field. There's a number of different models available, but that's the Mercedes you're looking at right there. Mercedes-AMG GT2, tons of power, not tons of downforce though, which makes it a bit of a handful at times, but a lot of fun to drive. In fact, these GT2 cars, if they're totally uncorked, they might be among the most powerful cars here on site this weekend. That includes the Indy cars. There could be as much as 700 horsepower available, depending on the balance of performance.
Yeah, I think right now they're probably running at about 6, but they do have the potential for 7, so they are absolute rockets down the straightaways. But again, they don't have that downforce in the braking zones and through the corners, and their tire is pretty, you know, I'd say not minimal, but it's a task for the drivers to manage the tire with that much horsepower around these streets. Certainly the front, they got to watch on that, and then the rears with that much horsepower, that's all down to the driver's sensitivity with that right foot.
There's another one right there. That one's driven by Brent Holt, and then you got the Lamborghini right behind. That's based on the Lamborghini Super Trofeo single-make car, but it's got a bit more power at its disposal as well than the traditional single-make Super Trofeo machine. Really, really cool car and a ton of fun to drive when you talk to those that have had the chance to do it. And the final car in GT2 in terms of the different makes and models is that Audi you see, CJ Moses with the white hood with the red fenders on that car. Another really, really nifty piece of kit that CJ absolutely loves. Anytime you talk to him about it, he's got a big old smile.
Yeah, and the fans love it. We had so many fans around the SRO paddock here this weekend in the exhibition center here at Long Beach. So these are the cars that, you know, young fans just have posters of on their bedroom walls. I mean, this is what it's all about, a melting pot of manufacturers here in the GT America Championship.
And so fitting, too, to have many of the world's premier auto manufacturers represented on this grid racing here in Southern California. We touched on it yesterday. This is a car-crazy part of the country, and they come out in droves to see some of their favorite sports car brands racing in front of them on the streets that many of these fans drive down in some cool cars not so dissimilar from this on a daily basis.
Yeah, on the walk to the booth, I walked through one of the paddock parking lots here and saw some exotic cars that would make your mouth water in terms of all of the manufacturers represented there. Many of those cars that I saw on the street are here on the racetrack as well. So it's going to be a fascinating start here. Johnny O, he lost that race yesterday, had a little bit of a downshift issue going into turn 8. Jason just set him up perfectly to make that move for the lead late in the going. It seemed like when Jason got the lead, his car was really into his sweet spot. Spoke to Nick Short, who runs that car, and he said, we've made 0 changes. The car is very much in Jason's wheelhouse right now.
There is Johnny O'Connell, runner-up yesterday. He'll start second today. And that little miscue with the gearbox, whatever the cause was, that set the table for a very emotional win for Jason Daskalos.
Very much so. Sheldon Miller has been with Jason as part of his race team for 19 years now, and he's got stage 4 cancer. And I just spoke with him a couple hours ago, Sheldon, and he's just very emotional about just being here, being part of this championship charge that Jason has put together. So it's a special year for that whole group of people.
Really strong start to the season. Daskalos with a couple of wins. He won the season opener in Sonoma, won the first of the weekend yesterday, and he'll start from the Rover pole position for race 2 of the weekend here at Long Beach as the marshals give the thumbs up. Cars out on the first of their formation laps. There will be 2 of them. This is the section of the track that had some repairs done to it after an incident in a preceding race event. Mostly it was up in the catch fence area, but all that's been taken care of. Great work by the track staff, and that means we're about to go racing for GT America. This is the starting grid. Jason Daskalos, a winner yesterday. He's on the Rover pole position next to Johnny O'Connell. James Safronis, series veteran, he rolls off third alongside his team car, driven by Kyle Washington. Justin Rothberg, a rookie, making just his second true street course start here today, alongside Dan Knox, yesterday's winner in GT2. Then it's Aaron Farhadi, a winner in the first 2 rounds of the championship in GT2, next to Ross Schwest. Jason Bell, in his first season of GT3, Racing will start 9th overall, and Brent Holden out of the GT2 ranks starting 10th. Then it's Alan Grossberg in one of those Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evos next to CJ Moses, and Mirko Schultes will start out back of the mixed SRO3 GT2 field. GT4 will get a separate start. The pole man there, Isaac Sherman, he's perfect on the season, 3 wins in 3 starts. His teammate Rob Holland will start next to him. Then it's Samantha Tan from ST Racing, and yesterday's GT4 pole sitter, Gray Newell. Kurt Swearingen also back in the 9th row. Elias Sabo and Todd Perriott in a couple of Aston Martins. Elias raced a GT3 car in the IMSA race yesterday. Nick Shanny and Todd Coleman are set to start out back in the GT4 ranks. That's the field, and it's a great one. Great mix of experienced veterans and fresh-faced rookies. And this is an iconic circuit that any driver dreams of getting the chance to race upon. One that I know you wish you had had the chance to race at, Cal.
Yeah, I never got the opportunity. Back in my single-seater days, I was running in the East Coast Atlantic Championship when the West Coast Championship competed here, and I never ran in Super V, which was a popular support event for the IndyCar Championship. So never had a chance. Did St. Pete. Ran up in Toronto and Montreal, but never had a chance to run here. But everyone loves it, and you talk about the iconic nature. 50 years, I think next year, isn't it? They're going to celebrate having competed here on the streets, and for everyone, every driver in this field, they'd love that on their resume, a win here at Long Beach.
Here comes the field through the iconic hairpin, and it looks like the safety car will peel off into the pit lane. The field's starting to form up into rows of 2. Johnny O'Connell on the left starting second. Jason Daskalos, the Mercedes, on the right-hand side of the screen. He's the pole man. There's the green flag as the field enters the VP acceleration zone. Great getaway from Jason Daskalos. He's able to secure the lead. James Safronis told us he was going to be aggressive on the start, and he is. Side by side with O'Connell. Washington making it 3 wide. Big lunge up the inside. All of this behind the leader, Daskalos. Kyle Washington has grabbed second spot as O'Connell and Safronis exchange bodywork.
Yeah, bodywork flying there. The 2 Audis getting together there with Washington's bold move down to the inside there into turn 1. And Johnny O may have lost a bit of bodywork. Here comes the GT4 field.
That was strange. Gray Newell ducked out of line just a little bit. Race control will take a look at that. In the meantime, Samantha Tan with a really good start. It's only her second start in this version of this GT4 BMW. Looking up the inside of Rob Holland. In the meantime, Gray Newell sweeping around the outside. That's Shanny, Sabo, and Coleman 3 wide momentarily at the back of the pack.
Bold move by Coleman. I think he may be on fresh sticker tires here. That's the strategy they used to have better rubber for this second race of the weekend. Trying to make some move. Oh, a tap there by Shanny. He gets into the rear of Perriott and turns him.
Perriott able to continue away. Not sure if that car sustained much damage. It was hit square in the wheel well, which isn't always the best place to be hit. Let's look at it again.
This is over in turn 4. Just misjudged there a little bit by Nick Shanny. Everyone on relatively cold tires, so you're not going to roll through that corner with the same minimum speed.
Frantic start to this 40-minute race. If you're new to the championship, it's pretty simple. Single driver, 40 minutes, no pit stops, no preservation of tires or fuel. It's go, go, go from the drop of the green. That's exactly what Jason Daskalos has done, as he has sprinted away to take a lead of 0.8 of a second over Johnny O'Connell.
What a start by Kyle Washington from 4th on the grid. Went side by side with his teammate and made that bold move. I mean, James saw him down the inside and just gave him the room, but Kyle kept it together beautifully.
Apologies, you're right. It was Washington running second, not O'Connell. Johnny has slipped back behind James Safronis as well. It does look like there is some bodywork damage to the left-hand side of that Ski Autosport Audi.
Yeah, well, they definitely had their elbows out there as Johnny O and Safronis accelerated up to the fountain turn.
Kyle Washington yesterday had to start out back after a technical issue cost him his qualifying laps, and he marched his way through the field, had some impressive lap times, and with that bold move at the beginning, he finds himself in the best position we've seen him in his relatively brief GT3 career, running second at the moment.
Yeah, I spoke to James Safronis, who obviously runs the GMG team and owner of that group, and he said Carl's really focused this year. Tom Sargent, who he's co-driving with in the Fanatec GT Championship, is here this weekend coaching him. He's got a lot more focused. He's trying to take away some of the off-track responsibilities that Kyle has and letting him focus on the race. And he's got his sights on the leader right now.
Well, we'll watch the look at this here in turn 1 again, and just know that there was a penalty handed down to Kyle Washington for a start procedure violation. Doesn't take away from just how impressive that move was to get up to second, but it does look like he owes a drive-through.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he switched lanes there a little bit too early, and it's such a tough one here with that long run till you get to the start-finish line, the acceleration run, you get going, and suddenly you're racing immediately. So that's a disappointment for him, because he's doing a great job here hanging on to the leader.
A little extra help in his corner here this year. You were doing some sleuthing and found out GMG's brought in an ace engineer with Manthey Racing on the resume to help out.
Yeah, he's an independent engineer, but he's had a lot of success over in Europe. He actually beat the Manthey group in sweeping the first couple of races at the Nürburgring this year. So James is pretty bullish about what he's bringing to the table and really getting these Porsches tuned up.
Did see that notice on the screen a moment ago. There's another incident under review. That's the 21 and the 13 Perriot and Shanny. This is Washington in the Porsche making the call to the pit lane to serve the drive-through penalty. Once again, the infraction start violation. Not exactly sure what the violation was, but I do think we've got a replay of the start, so maybe we can pick that out here, Cal.
Watch here. He's screen left, second in line, and Johnny O just doesn't get a great start. Dascalos goes, and then Washington switches Collins before you get to the stripe. That was tight. I mean, it's just one of those things. You got the racer's mentality. You go, 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 we're racing, but you just got to be a little bit more patient. It's a tough call, but they have to make it. That's part of the rule book.
Well, what that does is he gives a bit of a reprieve to this man. Jason Dascalos, the winner yesterday, spent the bulk of the race, though, running in second place. It was only in the final 10 minutes, maybe even less than that, that he was able to make the move for the win. In the meantime, James Safronis runs in the second spot in the blue GMG Racing Audi, and Amanda has more on James.
Exactly right. It might be a little reprieve for Jason Dascalos right now, but it sets up the 2009 and 2013 winner here to go chase him down. James was telling me, as you guys mentioned yesterday, this is a great business weekend for GMG. They have 3 cars on track with us this weekend. Said he has over 200 people here just checking out this operation. He said that the person that's been giving him the most pressure is his son, Jensen. Said he doesn't want to be embarrassed by his dad here this weekend, but you got to go it with James. When this class started 4 years ago, James Safronis was one of the biggest proponents of it, and look at him putting his words right into this race.
That's right, putting the money where his mouth is as far as that goes. He's invested heavily in GT America, powered by AWS. Typically doesn't run a full season himself because he's so busy managing not just their racing, which has grown by leaps and bounds, but also they have a pretty brisk business in the aftermarket parts business here in the Southern California area.
Yeah, and as Amanda said, certainly his son Jensen is putting the pressure on. He's a good racer himself, has run karts, and he's about to get his first experience behind the wheel of a Porsche coming up at the end of the month. So only 13 years old, but they're trying to see what sort of talent he's got. And here we see Kyle Washington on the rebound here, coming down pit lane here. Costs you about 35 to 40 seconds to the field, so it's a monster long pit lane here. So any pit lane drive-through costs you big time in terms of that track position.
The Lamborghini in strife that we saw a moment ago, that was Alan Grossberg. Looks like he's been able to get that corrected and is back running again, but I'm not sure it's totally at pace because the leaders in GT4 have caught him. So there might be some issues, and now we've got an SRO3 car in the form of Kyle Washington, who's on the rebound coming through here too. This is about to get pretty complicated for Isaac Sherman, who's pretty new to this multi-class style of road racing.
Complicated too for Rob Holland sitting there. Okay, what do I do now? I want that Long Beach win. Is my championship leader for our team right in front of me? Do I take those points away? One
of the stories yesterday was how traffic affected the lead of these respective classes. It was a story in all 3 classes, as a matter of fact. Expect that to be the case again today on these tight, twisty streets? You never know. It's just all about Reed. I think yesterday Johnny O came up on Samantha Tan. She was embroiled in a battle of her own and just didn't see him coming, and Johnny tried to squeeze it down the ear side, almost stalled him out, and in a flash, Dascalos was right on his tail and leapt on that opportunity further into the lap. So sometimes you'll clear that traffic, that'll create a cushion. Other times it just creates
a compression of the leaders.
That's Nick Shaney serving his drive-through penalty. And then in this fight here, you can see the differences between the two platforms. GT3 in the Porsche, GT2 in the Lamborghini. That Lamborghini was a rocket ship in a straight line, but in the braking zone where the downforce counts and the electronic driver aids really can kick in, that Porsche of Kyle Washington had the edge.
Yeah, that was pretty much the dynamic that you're going to see between those two classes here on the streets. Looking at this battle up front in GT4 continues, but here comes James Safronis trying to hunt down. He's just set the fastest lap of the race, broken in the 120.9. That's about a second and a half of what we saw here yesterday. So we also saw tires set late in the going. These Pirelli P0s are really hanging on here. Not a lot of tire degradation, even on this bumpy, rough street circuit.
It was impressive. We were in the final 10 minutes of the race, and we saw the bulk of the top 5 setting their fastest laps of the race yesterday. As the fuel wears off, the car gets lighter, and without much tire drop-off, that pace just continued to increase.
And I tell you what is increasing. Johnny O is hanging there, even though he may have a damaged race car there. His fast lap last go-round was only about half a tenth off James Safronis. So the two Audis running second and third have very similar pace right now.
Your winner yesterday in GT2 out front again. That's Dan Knox from the Lone Star Racing team. Not too far behind is the Callaway Corvette of Mirko Schultes, but that's part of the SRO 3 class.
Yeah, Mirko unfortunately had his transponder not working during the race yesterday, so we couldn't really create any official lap times, but on the stopwatch he had about the third or fourth fastest lap, which would put him on the second row of the grid. So the problem with that is he starts behind these GT2 cars, and this is where he kind of gets frustrated because they're going to steam away from him down the straightaways, particularly when it's well driven like the car by Dan Knox. So he struggles to get to the tail end of all of those SRO 3 competitors up ahead.
Dan Knox, a pretty stout competitor, finished third in the 2014 Pirelli World Challenge GTA Championship, scoring a win. That was with this same Lone Star Racing team, but at the time driving a GT3 Viper, one of the coolest cars we've seen compete in the series over the years.
Look at this little dynamic and traffic getting around Pariot there as they close down the leaders even more. Safronis is right there, but Daskalos yesterday was sensational in hitting his marks. Look how wide he sets up here for turn 8 to really get the hand straight and get back to power early and give him that straightaway speed on the run down to turn 9.
Good eye on Johnny O'Connell, because you're absolutely right, Calvin. He's crept right into the mix, and it's a different order, but this is effectively what we saw at the tail end of the race yesterday. These 3 cars linked together as if they were tethered. There was not much to separate these 3 veterans.
No, and I think the Ski Autosport team were frustrated. Johnny had about a 3-second lead there when he came across that gaggle of GT4 cars. He lost that, and then he had the downshift issue on the same lap, and Daskalos pounced and got by, and Johnny kept the pressure on him, but Daskalos did not crack.
See our Race Vision powered by AWS, giving you an update on which car and which driver is strongest in which sector. Daskalos hemmed in for the moment behind Todd Coleman in the green Aston Martin out of the GT4 class. That's let Safronis close in. This is the battle for the overall lead in a very tight portion of this racetrack.
Well, James said he's going to be aggressive here today. He's got his kids saying, come on, Dad, you got to win this one on home turf. Going to set him up here. Safronis has got to run. He's got better exit speed.
Daskalos to the outside of Coleman, but Safronis weaving back in front of the Audi. That was awfully close between Safronis and Coleman, but they're able to coexist. Looks like O'Connell has struggled a little bit with this traffic, and there looming in the background is the Turner BMW of Justin Rothberg, who's been turning in some good lap times as of late. That could make this a 4-car fight.
Yeah, I had a chat with Justin. Really impressive young man getting to terms with these SRO 3 and GT3 machines. Done wonderful work in the Ferrari channel. I misspoke yesterday. I said Robbie Foley, who coaches him now and co-drives with him in Fanatec GT, was his coach in Ferrari Challenge. Actually, it was Cedric Spirituali who coached him in Ferrari Challenge. My apologies for that, but certainly Robbie Foley is a great mentor for young Justin. He's done a great job. He's a tall lad. He's about 6'6", and they have the car seat, the racing seat, really set low down in the chassis for his height, so he's not literally got his safety helmet rubbing against the roof.
I about need a step ladder if I'm going to speak to him. He is about a foot taller than I am, but fits nicely inside that car, and actually that's a big reason why he chose the BMW. He told me he tested 2 or 3 other GT3 brands, but had trouble squeezing that big frame inside the race car. Ultimately, this seemed like a really good fit, and it has been so far. He's been quick going back to Sonoma and then here this weekend too.
Yeah, and Robbie Foley said, I like it because I'm normally compromised. I'm normally high up in the car because of my teammates are normally much shorter than me, so you can't afford to have your co-driver not see over the dashboard. So that's one of the compromises when you got 2 drivers trying to share the same car.
And don't have to worry about that this weekend, of course, here in GT America, powered by AWS, single driver format. But when we head to Sebring in a few weeks' time, the rest of the SRO America contingent will be there too, including Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. And that's the multi-driver format in which he shares that car with the aforementioned Robbie Foley.
2 Audis really launched well off turn 11. Looks like getting the power down incredibly well. Still Johnny O there looking down into the cockpit, maybe making some adjustments.
This is unexpected. This is Rob Holland, who was running second. He has made his way to the pits. Not sure what the cause of that is. Don't see anything from race control that would mandate a trip down pit lane, but that has now set Isaac Sherman loose. He is way out in front now with his car owner in some strife.
Now in P2 and GT4 is Samantha Tan, who's having a really nice run. It's actually her debut here yesterday in the new BMW M4 that debuted in 2023, but she didn't drive it last year, so she had to get her head around that and really came on strong late in the going yesterday. She's going to compete with a very similar chassis. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same car at the support race at the Spa 24-hour race in June. So just trying to get some mileage for herself and getting ready for that big event.
It is a massive event. GT4 European Series presented by the Rafa Racing Club this year, as ever, with a massive grid. A lot of the same names you've seen racing stateside actually have migrated over and trying out the European waters, which is cool to see. And if you could be on the support bill for an event like the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa, then you're going to be racing in front of a big audience on a major race weekend. That is a must-see if you ever get a chance to go in person.
Looks like that bodywork may be from Johnny O's left front. Does it look a little bit different to you? So maybe he's lost a little bit of front downforce, but you never know. Sometimes you take away downforce, and that can actually balance the car out. There you see the left front, I think, has got that quarter panel, so to speak, missing, and with it, a couple of those dive planes, which hurt you in the brake zones, but also has taken away some front downforce through these corners. So maybe he's making some subtle adjustments there inside the cockpit to try and dial this car back in, and Johnny's got the experience to do that.
Leaders working their way past the GT4 leader, Isaac Sherman. This is still very new to Isaac, who comes from a background, he raced early in life. Not that he's an old man by any means, I think he's under 30, but he had a chance to race when he was younger, mostly circle track racing, modifieds and Legends cars, but always wanted to go road racing. In fact, he said his favorite races in the Legends cars were when he got to go road course racing in those machines. And this has been a dream come true, joining the Rotec Racing squad after really impressing the team in a test over the offseason.
He was introduced to the group by Jason Daskalos, who's leading this race right now to Rob Holland, and they said, give this kid a shot, we think he's really good, and Rob said, boy, he was on the gas immediately.
A couple really good teams doing battle here with a pair of Aston Martins. Todd Coleman driving for the Archangel Motorsports squad, led by Mike Johnson, and then the famed Flying Lizard back here at Long Beach. That livery, you can recognize the logo if you're a longtime sports car racing fan on the orange and black Aston. That's Elias Sabo. They're fighting in the GT4 class a little bit further back. Looks like 5th and 6th.
Coleman's had a really nice run here from the back of the pack. Didn't have a great day yesterday. These two cars actually got together, I believe, but there was no incident responsibility awarded to either side, so they're keeping it clean here today.
Back to the front, Daskalos, Safronis, O'Connell, just like that, they flash through. There's just about 1.8 seconds separating this top three. Race Vision powered by AWS Circuit Performance. Looks like Mercedes has the edge in 2 of the 3 sectors, but that Audi awfully strong, as you can see as well. And really, we're talking about fractions of a second separating each of these top three. It seems like lap after lap.
And Daskalos set a new fast lap that's taken away by Johnny O immediately. So Johnny O now has the fastest lap of this race, a 120.412 compared to what we saw yesterday at a 119.5. So again, it can be the compatibility between the IndyCar rubber and the Pirelli rubber. So some of the teams said, no, it should be fine. And others said, no, we think we're going to struggle for grip when we go back out there after the IndyCars have run for a couple of hours.
We talk about how close the top three are. Their last laps were within 0.04 of a second of one another. Absolutely unbelievable. As we take a look here at the GT4 fight with Samantha Tan and the BMW being chased here by Gray Newell, using all of that curb in the fountain section, and it looks like yesterday's pole sitter is settling in a little bit. He dropped back early yesterday, had to settle for 4th, but he's starting to find some pace here as we approach the halfway mark of race 2.
Yeah, he really did sort of find his feet halfway through the race, as did Samantha Tan as well. But you saw him in a fierce battle for that final podium spot with Kurt Swearingen, who won out. But it really seemed like the Aston could roll a little bit more mid-corner speed through some of the low-speed stuff. Certainly Sector 3 seemed to be really strong for him compared to Swearingen in the Porsche yesterday. But right now, he has that final podium spot. And in the backdrop there, you can see that green, white, and black Porsche of Swearingen.
Here we go. The fight is on. This is for second. GT2 traffic looming ahead of James Sifronis. He swings to the inside of the Lamborghini. Johnny O'Connell stays in the tire tracks. Starting to close in, though. The two Audis at the front of the field fighting for second and third.
Yeah, really curious if Johnny O was struggling for balance with that bodywork piece missing, and he's able to work on his tool. Now he slows a little bit. I wonder if that was another question where he's not getting that lower gear. He suddenly didn't have acceleration there off turn 3, so I wonder if he's having the same issue yesterday as basically with the paddle shift. You ask for a lower gear and it doesn't grab that lower gear, and you're accelerating off the corner in one gear too high.
Certainly had the look of it. Johnny O'Connell will have to get back in his groove as he looks to reel James Sifronis back in. Jason Daskalos now leads by 1.5 seconds. It's his biggest advantage all race long as we've just passed the halfway mark.
And that was in the last third of this race yesterday that Jason Daskalos' car really came alive. And as I mentioned earlier, Nick Short said he's not going to change the setup on the car. The racetrack will be a bit different, but let's wait and see if Daskalos gets even stronger as this race progresses.
A couple of retirements to report on out of the GT4 ranks. The pit stop for Rob Holland evidently was due to a tire puncture. They changed it, sent him back out, but he's come back into the pits, and Amanda Busick reports that he's done for the day. Same story for Nick Shanny. He picked up some splitter damage at the beginning of the race, and with the tight turnaround to Sebring coming up in just 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks from now is when they need to show up on the other side of the country. They elected to pull the plug on the race today, and Nick Shanny too is done. He'll finish at the back of the GT4 field.
We talked about his pace yesterday, just now set a new CrowdStrike fastest lap of 120.243, Jason Daskalos. So looking to sweep the weekend here. He loves the streets, had a big win at St. Pete last year. And he's looking awfully strong right now. And he's got to dig deep if they're going to catch him.
Yeah, just reset the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race and was 0.5 of a second faster than Sifronis on the last lap. So the lead has ballooned to 2.074 seconds. Biggest we've seen, I suspect, all weekend long in the SRO 3 class. No one was able to escape yesterday, so Daskalos doing what appeared to be impossible until he's proven otherwise.
Yeah, it looks like he's got about a 10th or 2 margin over the chasing Audis right now. So again, when you're that close as they were before, you're picking up a little bit of a draft and a tow from that Mercedes in front. So maybe he's broken that draft effect a little bit. And now we're seeing the true race pace between the two marks here.
Report from Amanda, the Ski Autosports team, saying that Johnny O'Connell reported the engine cutting off. He was able to get it refired, and you could tell he's back on the pace. He's caught James Sifronis again. But that has to be super frustrating for Johnny O'Connell, who looked like he was in store for a win yesterday until some misfortune cost him a chance at that victory late in the race.
Well, it seems like there's some kind of electronic glitch potentially. I'm not sure if they're related between the downshift issue that he had yesterday. Spoke to the team this morning. They said they were going to reset the clutch setting. But I'm not sure if that's related to this engine problem now cutting out. The key is now he's going to be ready for when it happens, to whatever he has to hit the switches or refire it or whatever, on off with the ignition switch. I'm not sure what he's having to do, but he'll be ready. If he feels that immediately, he'll be on the ball.
Battle starting to develop here back in the back of the SRO 3 field. Jason Bell and Kyle Washington. Bell in the Aston that just came through the picture. The red, white, and blue Porsche of Washington now in his tire tracks.
Washington is absolutely flying. I mean, he just set a lap time of a 120.67, which is only 0.4 off the fastest lap of the day. So despite that penalty after that, yeah, it was a minor infraction, but rules are rules, and he got called for it on kind of switching lanes there before the start-finish line. But he's done a really nice job of keeping his head, and I think we're seeing a different Kyle Washington this year to the past couple of seasons, where he's just really learning his craft.
And he has now a few seasons of GT3 racing under his belt. The man he's chasing, and Jason Bell, is a champion at the GT4 level, but doing his first running here in GT3 this season. Looks like Washington got a great jump out of the hairpin and is able to pull alongside. And this looks like it won't be a battle for long, as Jason Bell will slot back in line behind. Jason told me they did not get much testing done pre-season. They were counting on all of the pre-event testing at Sonoma to get acclimated with this race car. But as we know, there wasn't much testing, as it turned out, because of some track surface issues early in the week in Sonoma. And that's really put Jason on the back foot. He's got Sebring targeted as a weekend where he can really start getting acclimated with this car and figure out where the pace can be extracted. Yeah,
I think get a full race weekend under his belt with some practice and stuff at Sebring. He loves Sebring as well. He's had so much success there over the years. It's a track that he's very confident in, and he doesn't live too far away, so I'm sure he recognizes it. Now we don't have St. Pete on the schedule as his home race, so he'll be buoyant about that, and I think the team are expecting him to gradually get to grips with this GT3 machine. It is different, and as you said, the lead up to the first event was not ideal, and now we're on the streets. You know, you got to be careful. There's a big season ahead. We've got a couple of races upcoming in the next month at Sebring and Coda, so you can't afford to damage the race car on these street walls.
Safron is now 3 seconds behind the leader, Jason Dascalos. Johnny O'Connell, as you saw in that graphic, has just been chipping away over the last few laps. And the last lap in particular, he cut a couple tenths off of the advantage.
But look who is now the fastest man on the day. He talked about he had speed here yesterday, but didn't have a transponder to indicate it. Mirko Schultes just ran a lap at 119.87. 0.3 quicker than our leader, Jason Dascalos. So that Callaway Corvette has some speed, and he's up to P5. Now he's gotten around those GT2 cars.
Somewhere Reeves Callaway is smiling down, because that is his creation, right? The Callaway family that you might know from golfing. But Reeves' passion was sports cars, and when General Motors didn't really want to go GT3 racing, Reeves found a way to get it done, basically as almost a garagiste running Corvettes that had been developed by the Callaway company to go GT3 racing. Never could race up against another GM product, so you didn't see them much stateside until recently. But this old dog still's got some bite in it. Look at the Callaway Corvette now starting to stalk Justin Rothberg in the fight for fourth.
Talk about the car or the driver?
Well, a little bit of both.
All respect to Mirko, just such an avid competitor for many years now, and he loves GM power. Really been the backbone of all of his racing endeavors over the years, and just love the way he goes about his racing. He'll be in there, grimy fingernails, getting the car sorted out, digging in with the crew. I love it.
Told me a couple years back the love affair with GM started when he needed some vehicle to haul his dirt bikes around his native Germany, and he somehow ended up with a Chevy Blazer. Still not quite sure how that happened. I don't think that many were sent over to Europe, but that said, he did. He loved the car, and he's tried to race GM-powered products ever since. Most places gained, as you saw a moment ago on Race Vision, powered by AWS, up 8 spots. Mirko Schultes, and it could be 9, because the veteran, former winner at Petit Le Mans in class, is starting to stalk the GT3 rookie.
Yeah. What a difference in terms of experience. Justin Rothberg just getting used to this type of machinery. Mirko enjoying life in the later stages of his career still. Just loves to race. There's a report this may be his last one. I don't think that is the case. I think they intend to do a little bit more racing with this machine this year, schedule dependent.
And we hope to see a whole lot more of it, that's for sure. This race is flying by, just 12 minutes to go. Schultes putting the pressure on Rothberg here, and one of the things we love about this championship is it's an entry point into GT3 for many drivers like a Justin Rothberg, but also for those that have been at it for some time and have the requisite bronze rating from the FIA like a Mirko Schultes. So you see a chance here for Rothberg to really study going up against a competitor with so many years of experience like Mirko.
Well, Mirko's hoping that he can study him from the other direction here, because he's really putting the pressure on, trying to get that Callaway Corvette in front of this much more modern generation BMW that he's competing with right now.
Yeah, that's true. This is still based on the old C7 platform of Corvette, so a bit long in the tooth, but as you can tell, still potent. Schultes takes a look inside, just filling those mirrors up a little bit. But give Rothberg credit, he doesn't seem like he's easily shaken.
No, he's done a really nice job over these first couple of weekends, really thrown in at the deep end, but he's shown a lot of poise. Times he's shown really good lap times as well, so I think the potential is big. Robbie Foley is really high on this kid's ability.
You see the Ladecrete sponsorship on the side of the BMW, and that is the family business founded by Justin's grandfather. They're in the International Construction Solutions business. I think it's an adhesive basically for pavement or paving tiles and things of that nature is what he was telling me. And he said it gives him so much pride to carry the family business's logo on the race car.
Yeah, that's really cool. A lot of support. Many family members supporting their drivers here this weekend. Lots of cool stories in the SRO paddock.
And what a story would be if Jason Daskalos could sweep the weekend, pick up his third win of the season. He's already 30 minutes into this race, so just 10 minutes away from a third win out of 4 races, and we know that team is racing with extra motivation. Talked about it off the jump. Crew Chief Sheldon Miller battling cancer, and it was emotional yesterday in Victory Lane for Jason Daskalos.
Rothberg in there really deep on the brakes, does a nice job there to switch lanes, and then you just got to make sure that you're feeling the grip off the racing line a little bit, very, very dirty, and did a great job of sweeping the racetrack after the IndyCar event. So the racetrack should be relatively clean in terms of marbles offline.
Schultes is being awfully cautious there, trying to deal with the GT4 traffic, and that cost him a ton of time. It's not really a battle anymore. Rothberg has been able to check out, but that's the nature of multi-class racing. Sometimes traffic giveth, other times it taketh away. Domination in GT4 from this man, Isaac Sherman. What a season it has been. Showed up at Sonoma, was not on the pre-event entry list. That's how late this deal came together. It was only for a pair of races there at Sonoma, but it went so well, he went ahead and committed to a full season, and right now the lead is pretty massive, over 10 seconds now over second place Samantha Tan.
Yeah, Tan's running some really nice lap times. Her fastest lap is only about half a second off of Sherman, but obviously when you multiply that by the length of the distance we've gone so far, that's how you build up that 10-second lead. But Sherman just hasn't put a foot wrong in the 2 events and 4 races that we've seen him compete in so far in 2024.
Now this back straightaway, this is the run down East Seaside Way, turn 8 to turn 9. Now we check back in a little bit further back in the pack. GT2 leader here still, Dan Knox. This time maybe it's a bit more comprehensive. In fact, it is significantly more comprehensive. Where has Farhadi gone? He is considerably further back, some 20 seconds back. That comes as a bit of a surprise. Ross Schwest is the second Mercedes you see in the picture, but he is in the SRO 3 class. So these two very similar looking Mercedes AMGs do not actually compete within the same class as one another.
Yeah, I wonder if Hardy's had a moment, because his fastest lap is a couple of tenths quicker than Dan Knox so far today, so he's got pace, but certainly he's got a lot of ground to make up to get even close to the GT2 leader.
Talking about this GT2 Mercedes, it is based on the track series version of the Mercedes AMG car. 4.0 liter engine, twin turbo V8, makes unrestricted at least 707 brake horsepower. Debuted back 1 year ago. And it is, interestingly enough, the first ever Mercedes race car with a swan neck style rear wing design, which has become quite in vogue here in recent years.
It really has. Yeah, it's really efficient. You can see it there, given that rear end plenty of downforce. They got it way up high too, so really creates the maximum amount of leverage to keep that rear end planted to the road and let the driver deal with that. I'd say 600 horsepower in today's trim, but maximum of 7 on certain circuits.
And that came about, that rear wing design, because if you were lucky enough to be able to buy, let's put it that way, the track series car that this is based off of, it actually has a double rear wing design, which is not eligible here in GT2. Look at this, Schultes has closed that gap back down and is suddenly heaping pressure on Rothberg once again, Cal.
Yeah, Schultes got to be careful there. You get wide through turn 9, it's very easy to just skate the front end into the wall, so he's working him over right now.
Traffic ahead, that is Kurt Swearingen, who runs 4th in the GT4 class. We'll keep an eye on this fight, see if the Callaway Corvette can get a run down the pit straightaway. Doesn't look like the move is on in turn number 1, so we'll take the chance to check in pit side with Amanda.
You know, guys, I still think it's wild that it was only 3 hours ago that we were watching Indy cars on this track here at the Streets of Long Beach, and a lot of our drivers find that to be just as cool as they're driving around these streets now. And talking to Aaron Verhada, he grew up in Anaheim, and his friends and family are here to watch him do just that. But even a Justin Rothberg, he was saying earlier in the weekend, the idea that I get to speed on the streets in my car, what a dream.
It is the thrill of street course racing, right? I mean, you see the stop signs, you see the crosswalks, you see, you know, all the lines on the road that any other day you'd have to be obeying, but not today.
No, and I think for any young driver, I'm not sure if Justin was a race fan as a young boy, but certainly over the years, I'm sure he's watched the Long Beach Grand Prix, whether it's Formula 1, but here comes Schultes down to the inside, can't quite get there, gives it up. Probably a wise move, because Justin was going to swing across for that apex. But just getting back to, we talked about the iconic event and what it would mean to have a result here on the streets of Long Beach. Very, very special. Certainly one on the calendar that everyone puts a ring around and says, I want to win there.
Look at this, race vision powered by AWS. Porsche in 2 of the sectors, but that Callaway Corvette still awfully stout. Speaking of stout, James Sofronis has been turning in some great laps, and with Dascolo stuck in traffic, we've got a fight for the lead on our hands with 4 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's certainly a different dynamic right now. Jason looks so comfortable out there with a 2+ second lead, and I'm not sure whether it's traffic or just James clicking off the laps.
Hard to tell, but that stat says it all. The last 3 laps, it's been over 2 seconds that's been carved away out of that Jason Dascolo's lead.
Yeah, lap 25 looked like a traffic lap for Jason Dascolo, so a big mistake. We haven't seen him make one so far this weekend, so I'd put it more down to traffic and just catching someone in the wrong spot and having to wait.
Yesterday's winner, Jason Dascolo, who loves street course racing. We've seen him be super aggressive in traffic over the years. But then the hometown hero, James Sofronis, who's being egged on by his son Jensen, saying, Dad, you gotta go out there and win one of these things. Well, he's in position to try with 3 minutes, 15 seconds to go.
Yeah, his wife Nadas is here, his young daughter Chloe, 14 years old. We talked about Jensen and his karting career. He's 13, so they got the family here. Lots of fans, lots of support. GMG just down the road. They'll be moving their shop over to Thermal in July. Brand new facility, 28,000 square feet. James is so excited about that. He now runs 30 customer cars out of his race shop, and he said to have that ability to literally drive out of the race shop and 20 seconds later on the racetrack itself at Thermal, that'll be a great place for them to really base their operations from.
GMG will retain a presence in Southern California too. They do a lot of work, as we mentioned earlier, with the aftermarket part market. It's been a big part of the GMG business over the years, but racing is what put them on the map. James Safronis, who was in the first ever SRO, or World Challenge as it was then, race here at Long Beach, putting some of that experience to work, but he's only going to have a couple more laps if he's going to wrest the win away from Jason Daskalos.
I am just amazed where Jason Daskalos is so comfortable placing that Mercedes around this racetrack. I mean, he's literally using every inch of the road on the entry down into turn 9 there, all the way out to the left concrete wall before he turns it in and just creates a massive radius through there. I mean, it can catch you out, but I think he's got so much confidence with the setup that they got underneath that CRP machine. He's loving life right now, and he's feeling it once again.
Each of the top 3 set their respective fastest laps of the race the last time by, but the fastest of the trio was Daskalos, and as a result, the lead has gone back up over a second, and to my eye at least, Cal, it's continued to grow over here in the first half of this penultimate lap.
New CrowdStrike fastest lap to Kyle Washington on his rebound back through the field. The 1:19.776 takes that fast lap for Schultes away.
Battle for second in GT4. Samantha Tan in the Starry Night livery BMW has it. Gray Newell in the heart of racing. Aston Martin trying to take it away.
This is great stuff. Fantastic GT4 race here yesterday. This has been a great race, clean so far. Keep your fingers crossed we can go all the way through this weekend, but just under a minute to go. You'd have to think we're in good shape here.
Newell right in the tire track.
Setting it up, big wide radius on the power early.
Samantha went awfully defensive into the corner, compromised her exit a little bit, so here comes the Aston.
W looks strong down that straightaway though, Ryan.
Time starting to run out in this fight for second and third in the GT4 ranks. Through the hairpin, Samantha Tan continues to hang on, and perhaps the ponies in that BMW are enough to keep Gray Newell in the distance in this long drag down into turn number 1.
Stretches it again. It's got to be frustrating for Newell. He's really good through the twisty stuff, and just lose that a little bit down these long straightaways. Saw it a little bit yesterday as well.
Here's Daskalos, a little bit of traffic ahead. That's Jason Bell a bit off the pace. We'll see, will Jason let the leaders come through? It looks like he will. Daskalos is through, Safronis will follow through, so they're able to continue the fight. It'll be the white flag next time by. Oh no, it'll be the checkered flag this time by. Apologies. So we're coming now to the final stretch of the race. Daskalos through the final corner with Safronis on his tail. And it looks like the pursuit will come up a tad short for James Safronis. A sweep of the weekend for Jason Daskalos on the streets of Long Beach. He takes home the victory by 0.8 of a second over James Safronis. Johnny O'Connell completes the podium in third position.
Brilliant weekend for Jason Daskalos. He'll have the championship lead tonight.
How about this young man, Isaac Sherman? He's made 4 GT4 starts in his life. He's won all of them. Sherman to the line, flash in the headlights. Isaac Sherman and Rotec Racing, perfect to start the 2024 season. Sweeping the weekend here on the streets of Long Beach. Fighting for second and third, Samantha Tan will hold off Gray Newell. They cross the line and complete the GT4 class podium. Here we go. This is Knox, your winner, presumptive in GT2, and he has taken the checkered flag. So great job by the Lone Star Racing team. Dan Knox popping in for the first time this season, and he'll walk away with a couple of first place trophies at one of the iconic venues in North American motorsport.
What a great weekend of racing. Hats off to all the competitors, keeping it clean, keeping it out of the walls. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, remarkable weekend for Jason Daskalos. And we told the story a couple of times already. We saw the emotion in victory lane yesterday what this means for this team, for the team's crew chief, Sheldon Miller, who's been a part of Jason's racing family for well over a decade. Sheldon fighting a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. And Jason Dascalos very much wanting to mount a championship bid in the honor of his crew chief, Sheldon Miller, here in 2024 after coming home runner-up in the championship each of the past 2 seasons.
Just a wonderful showcase, really, of SRO competition here this weekend with 3 classes represented in this series. And just a melting pot manufacturers. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want to see, right? Clean races, the both of them. No full course yellows, no safety car interventions, limited contact on a treacherous street course with 3 different classes mixed together and a number of drivers with very little street course racing in their backgrounds. That was a remarkable display. And into some of the most prized real estate in Southern California, and that's saying something. Victory Lane in Long Beach. That is where Jason Dascalos has parked his CRP Racing Mercedes. We'll hear from him here shortly. Big celebrations for Dascalos. And there's the hug with Sheldon Miller. Greg Gill, Series CEO, coming in to congratulate as well. And you can see the smile under the helmet. The driver of the vintage 423 Mercedes. Hadn't seen much of Jason Dascalos in the years before GT America was created just a few years ago, but when it popped up, he brought what was at the time an older spec Audi to come race and had some remarkable results. He's transitioned to modern machinery, and the results have only improved from there. And Amanda, 3 times this season, Jason Dascalos has been a race winner.
And Jason, as Ryan just said, 3 times a winner already this season. You told me that yesterday was one of your favorite wins in your career on such a poignant weekend. How does this just add to it?
Oh, this is great. I mean, what a weekend. What a weekend. Obviously, that couldn't have finished any better for the points, and that's what we're striving for. We want to win a championship. So,
Calvin said towards the end of that race that you were just hitting your points perfectly around the streets here. Where did you get into your groove?
The car didn't come to me again. It's just my car took a while to come to me, but middle of the race and towards the end, I just had a great car again, and I was hitting my points. I didn't make any mistakes, and I built a little bit of a gap, which helped me in traffic because I was able to be a little more conservative in traffic.
You know, another point you hit? Points leader.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you.
It'll be a big celebration tonight for Jason Dascalos, Nick Short, Sheldon Miller, the whole CRP racing team. As we look at the results from the SRO 3 class, Dascalos, Safronis, O'Connell, as they were yesterday. They are your podium again today in race 2, and again put on a great show for us, but this time Jason Dascalos started out front and he never looked back.
He didn't, and I think every year he shows up as like, you know, who am I going to have to compete? Last year it was Mamo Gidley, George Kurtz was on a tear the year before. But right now, I mean, he has gone to a new level, I think. I mean, he's been so fast over the last couple of seasons, but the consistency that we're seeing over the first 2 weekends, I think he's taken it up a notch.
Rothberg did hold off Mirko Schultes, but it was only by a half a second. Ross Schwest, Kyle Washington had great pace this weekend, ended up with the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race, but that penalty for a start procedure really cost him any chance at a good result in race number 2. Excited to see what the future holds for him. Back down to Victory Lane and Amanda.
And Dan, one of your team members said that this is a career weekend for the operation. How would you describe it?
Well, couldn't have a better weekend for Lone Star Racing. This is awesome. 2 wins in a row at Long Beach, of all places. This is fantastic. I mean, my crew, AJ, Alan, Mike, the rest of them, they just did a fantastic job on this car today.
Congratulations.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Pretty cool to see Dan pop in and pick up those wins. He kind of told us yesterday, cherry-pick the races that he wants to go to, and he loves the street courses. He loves Long Beach. I can see why.
Yeah, and such a nice man. It's great to see very nice people have great results like that.
Aaron Farhadi has run 4 races. He's finished first or second in all 4 of them. Hope we can see Aaron in future races. I know looking for the budget to continue, but another strong showing for the local. Brent Holden completing the podium in 3rd. That's another GMG racing driver. Great weekend for GMG. Same for CJ Moses, also from GMG. And Alan Grossberg finishes 5th in the GT2 class. Back once more to Amanda.
Well, Isaac, as Ryan said yesterday, you continue to bat 1,000 in this class. I just told you it was about 12 seconds at the stripe. Now that we're 4 races in, could you have imagined having this much success this early?
Yeah, I couldn't have imagined it. I mean, it is. I always say it's a team effort. Supercuts, a lot of support from them, family, friends, the team, Porsche. They're all amazing, and it kind of made this possible for me. So I thank them all very much.
We told the story of the walls disappearing for you. Yeah. Did you see any today?
I did not see any walls today. I was just focused, put my head down, and it worked out really well. So
nice job. We'll see you at Sebring.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's a man with a bright future. I think it's safe to say. It seems like every year we get a revelation in this series, and he's the early front runner.
Absolutely, just superb. Hasn't put a foot wrong, and then when you do that on a street circuit for the first time, that's amazing.
There's your GT4 results. Isaac Sherman by over 12 seconds ahead of Samantha Tan and Gray Newell. Good battle between those two. Kurt Swearingen had a podium yesterday, 4th today. Then Todd Coleman, who had to come from the back. Pretty good result for Todd. Elias Sabo, Todd Perriott, Rob Holland, and Nick Shanny wrapping up the GT4 class. Now we'll take a look at the highlights from the second race this weekend. What a weekend of racing it was, as Kyle Washington was the big mover early. Unfortunately, he was deemed to have had an infraction in the start procedure, so that was all for naught after a bold move got him up to 2nd on the road. This was the GT4 start, and it was pretty wild further back in the pack. A couple of cars picked up some damage here in the early stages, including Nick Shanny in this contact right here, and ultimately Nick would retire from the race. More fights here. This was for the overall lead as Jason Daskalos was trapped momentarily behind some GT4 traffic. That let James Safronis close in. Safronis himself caught out by some traffic a little bit later. That's the nature of multi-class racing, especially on a street course. Samantha Tan and Gray Newell swapping some paint. Wow, that was good stuff. But at the end of the day, it was Jason Daskalos who took the checkered flag first, sweeping the weekend here at Long Beach. In fact, we had sweeps in all 3 classes, with the wins in GT2 to Dan Knox, and a couple of wins as well in GT4 for Isaac Sherman as the celebrations begin down at Victory Lane at Long Beach. Fun weekend of racing, Calvin. We were treated.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Just beautiful weekend in terms of the weather. Massive crowd that hung out here after the IndyCar event to watch. Was a sensational GT America event as well. And normally when you leave a street circuit, Ryan, you talk about going to the smooth confines of a road course. But we're going to Sebring, mate.
Right. It might only get bumpier. It certainly only gets bumpier from here, but we can't wait. That's in 2 weeks' time. If you can't be there in person, we hope you join us for coverage from Sebring. For the whole crew, Calvin and Amanda, I'm Ryan. Thanks for watching. So long from Southern California.